this Reverend Lisa's 8th anniversary as leader of this great church, Los Angeles Third Church. I want to thank the choir. I was in the back, but who was that was singing that song after me? Who was the girl? Going on out there. I'm telling you, the choir, we really appreciate you. And I know the choir don't want me to put them on blast, but they gave us a generous donation. They gave the church a generous donation of $350. We really So our topic, I get to close it out, is great expectations. And it dawned on me as I was preparing to come today that this is my first day speaking this month. I had to play hooky, take care of a little fun time, and wasn't here. So as I always do, I always look at the video of Reverend Lisa and Dr. Ronnie and see what they had to say. And I noticed when I looked at Reverend Lisa's video, it was from the first service, when y'all, it's from the first service. And she got a little emotional. You know, sometimes I get up here and cry. You know, me and Reverend Lisa, we don't mind that. We'll let you see all of us. So she got a little emotional, you know, and you know, being me, you know, even though she's a big girl, and I know she can take good care of herself. And if anything she can't handle, Reverend Paul can. But you know, that little big brother thing came up to me. I said, that folks messing with my Reverend Lisa. Because you know, I'll get on y'all if you mess with my Reverend Lisa. And I was getting ready to, I started writing something. You know, I got to tell them something. You know, then I thought about it. I said, you know what, Reverend Jerrold? He said, you make a whole lot of mistakes yourself. So you really don't have no business telling nobody for making a mistake. Because that's all it was. That's all it is. It was a mistake. You make them all the time. So I said, the best way to approach this is the same way you tell your clients that you counsel to approach it. You know, stop. You know, just pause for a minute. You know, observe the situation, what's going on. Take a deep breath. You know, relax. Expand your consciousness. And then you'll be able to respond to the situation versus react to the situation. So, in my response to the situation, I said, I need to talk about a self-reflective Reverend Jerrold. You know, because like I said, you know, Reverend Jerrold messed up a whole bunch of times. So by turning it within, because when we start pointing fingers at other people, you know, that's just really pointing the finger at yourself, because there ain't but one of us. Now, it looks like it's a bunch of us in here, but it's really only one of us in here. And everything that happens with one of us, it happens for all of us. So, Reverend Lisa and I do have great expectations. We have great expectations for ourselves. We have great expectations for our families, for our friends, great expectations for this congregation, great expectations for our community and our world. That's why we chose this line of work. I know some of y'all think this is easy, but trust me.
No, we know.
It ain't easy. It's extremely time consuming. You never know when your phone gonna ring, or how long you're gonna have to be on. It takes a person who's committed to helping people live their best life to do this work. And our Reverend Lisa is 150% committed. So we get up here and we give it all that we got. We try not to leave anything behind. We try to give it all to you. But every once in a while, it appears to us that our lectures aren't necessarily resonating with everybody. But then we have to reflect and think. If that thought is in the atmosphere, then we play a role in it. everybody to live their best life. But we want them to live their best life based on their own expectations, not ours. This church has been around for 87 years. 87 years of truth-seeking and truth-sharing. The enlightenment shared over those years won't do a thing for our families. These messages that have been coming from this pulpit by various preachers won't enhance the life of our friends. Whatever we do up here cannot strengthen the faith of this congregation, nor will it improve the conditions of our cities and this planet unless those who hear make a conscious decision to demonstrate the Christ presence that they are certain lives, moves, and has its being within them. I don't care if you are all about the old-time religion. I don't care if your thing is New Thought philosophy. It matters not if you're an Orthodox Jew or practice Islamic tradition. You can choose to be a witness to Jehovah, or you can study the Book of Mormon. I honor and respect them all, yet I stand firm in my belief that your religion is how you live, not what you call yourself. I stand firm in my belief that holiness is a state of consciousness that realizes and demonstrates your unity with God.
Yes.
Reverend Lisa pointed out when she spoke to you, she told you the solutions to the world's problems will result from us solving our individual issues.
That's right.
If you want the world to get better, work on your issues. Because when you get rid of all your issues, guess what? The world just got a little better. She coined it a soul-lution. A soul-lution produces understanding, acceptance, compassion, and forgiveness. Now, those things are contrary to what we hear being dominated on the news today. When we listen to the news, we hear stories about building walls, separating families, bombing villages abroad, and taking over communities. These ideas are reactions to fear, ego, selfishness, and greed. They provide a solution for a few, but degradation for many. And when we see and hear these things, we are quick to point out the divisiveness of our top political officials. Yet we take a similar approach and demonstrate the same attitude towards people who don't speak like us, who don't look like us, or don't love the same way we do.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And God forbid they decide to pray to a God by a different name than we do. We feel it's unfair when folks are unjustly labeled communist and terrorist and anti-American, making their lives expendable. But the self-righteous attitude that sings praises to the Lord in church all Sunday and then turn around and crucify others based on their own standards and judgments is what we're dealing with.
That's right.
And our progressive New Thought folk, all y'all with these progressive New Thought ideas, we don't always keep that New Thought attitude when it comes to us getting on somebody else's case. Oh, we metaphysical. But sometimes we take a self-righteous posture as well. Shame on me and shame on you if you don't live the truth that you claim to possess. You know, You know my mom was more like Jesus, right? Let me tell you something about my guy. Jesus did not come to do miraculous things. Jesus came to simplify our journey back to our spiritual beginning. He simply said, love God and your neighbor. He didn't say you get to make your God better than someone else's. He didn't say you can select who you want your neighbor to be. He said, love the one and only spiritual perfection that became all things with your heart and with your soul. Your heart center. That's the divine substance and love and affection that was born into you. It's the seat of your subconscious mind before it got messed up with all that race-conscious thinking that's adverse to the truth. Your soul is your consciousness. It's an accumulation of all the ideas that produce our present expression and produce your current condition. Jesus was saying to us, share loving thoughts with all of creation. He wants us to love all humanity in the way that we want to be loved. Dr. Ronnie gave you this. He says if we can come in conscious alignment with our spirit and have a clear vision for our life, the results is a harmonious relationship with others. What did he say? He said if we can get ourselves in conscious alignment and have a clear vision of what we want for our life, the result will be a harmonious relationship with others. Now I know somebody sitting out there thinking right now, Reverend Jerrold, Reverend Lisa, maybe your expectations are too great. I can't be a model citizen. Being on my best behavior all the time is just too much to ask. So I thought I'd ask you a couple of questions. Is being self-aware and realizing when you are not your best too much to ask? Is acknowledging your mistake and apologizing too much to ask? You see, the scriptures don't ask us to be perfect. They ask us to seek perfection. When a sin, which is nothing but a mistake, is committed, the scriptures say we should repent. Well, what does that mean, Reverend Jerrold? That means change your mind and change your heart. It means ascend from mortal thoughts to spiritual thoughts. It means that you should admit your transgressions and resolve within yourself to do good in the future. It means that you should recognize the spiritual way is the road to holiness. When we do those things, then we open the door for great expectations to become a reality in our life. There are those of us who believe that great expectations will only come to them if they allow Jesus to fix it. What's wrong with that people? They truly believe that it doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter what's going on. All I got to do is ask Jesus, and he will fix it. Those who believe Jesus will fix it, I came here today to tell you, they are absolutely right. Because I know that if you adopt the Christ consciousness, you will have the tools to fix whatever is broken in your life. All right. I know that if you recognize that there's a power greater within you, and if you unify and acknowledge that it lives within you and operates through you, if you know that you can't be separated from it, but you can misuse it, yet when you realize its original intent for your life is to see divine ideas, author and demonstrate words of love and wisdom, which can produce and affirm a faith and belief that great expectations can be received in your life right now. That's accepting Jesus. When you give thanks for all of your blessings and allow Spirit to, as they say in the neighborhood, do what it do. When your great expectations become a regular occurrence, that means that you have accepted the Christ consciousness and Jesus will fix it. Now I do a little reading in this book right here. And there's a whole lot of talk about my man Jesus. But there's one thing you will not find. You will not find one passage that says Jesus is going to reach down from heaven and pick you up.
That's right.
When you find it, show it to me. But what you will find, you'll find several ideas that intimate that he'll whisper to you in a still small voice. You'll be able to recognize his voice when he shouts from a heavenly mountaintop. And what he's going to tell you is that I'm not coming down to pick you up. I'm going to tell you to get up and walk. I'm going to tell you to exercise the faith that makes you whole and receive your great expectation. Dr. Ronnie also told me, he says, when we live the vision, we give power to ourselves. We give power to ourselves that we can use right now. But he says sometimes we let stuff that other folk put on us sidetracks. And he used an analogy. He says, often, and particularly some of you people of color, I say you people. You know, because I'm a, what was that? I had a friend, John McReynolds, he called himself some kind of maiden. You know, I forget, I'll think of it, but he didn't identify with y'all. He created a term for himself. But Dr. Ronnie used an analogy. He says how sometimes we allow racism to limit our expectations.
Yes.
Sometimes we look at what they did, look at what they're doing, and we allow that to limit our expectations. But we must rise above appearances of limitations, Dr. Ronnie said, and focus on our current possibilities. You see, I know a little bit about racism. I know a little bit about it. Not just because I've been victimized by it. Not just because my ancestors had to endure them. But because I used to be one of them. That's why I know so much about it. My wife bought me a t-shirt that says racism is, what is it, the encouragement of ignorance or something like that. What does it say, right? You bought the shirt. It says racism is an emotional, that's what it is. Racism is an emotional response to ignorance. That's what the shirt says. It's an emotional response to ignorance. So there was a time when Reverend Jerrold was showing up ignorant. You see, growing up in the 60s during the revolution, I was convinced you couldn't change my mind if you tried, that the white man was the devil. Of course, my only relationship to white folks was teachers, authority figures, and the police. When I turned on, my mom turned on that little black and white TV that we had at the time, and I saw the injustices that were being perpetrated on us down south on the television. And then I'd go outside and see some of those same injustices perpetrated on the streets of Los Angeles. That justified, in my mind, my disdain for people who look different than me. But just like Malcolm X, just like my brother John Abdul Haq, who some of you have met, who used to be the National Secretary of the Nation of Islam. Something happened to me along the way in my journey. Something happened that made me aware that bad behavior is driven by consciousness, not color.
That's right. That's right.
You see, in my pilgrimage, if you will, see, Malcolm came to his realization on a pilgrimage, and so did I. I was on a pilgrimage from Fremont High School to college. You see, I left Fremont High School knowing full well that I was going to be a professional baseball player.
Right.
Didn't need to go to class and study nothing, so I didn't. Because the angels had told me, you just do well, and we go to the next draft, you're going. But I had to go through a program first. I had to be tested first. So they sent me to this college, right? Now, I come from an all-black high school at the time, all-black baseball team, all-black community. Now, I'm on a team where there's only 5 brothers out of 20. When I left Fremont, when I left Fremont, I was all city, most valuable player on a team that lost 1-0 in the city championship at Dodger State. I thought my little stuff did not stink when it came to baseball. I show up on this campus now where it ain't but 5 of us, the rest looking at something else. The first day of practice, I look up on the depth chart and I'm 3rd string. Not first, not second, 3rd string, which means I ain't gonna get a lot of looks at all. In practice or no other time. So what's the first thing I scream? Racism. Called the coach out. How dare you put these people in front of me? And we ain't hit a ball, we haven't done nothing. How do you know they're better than me? How am I just 3rd string? My great expectations were crippled, not by racism, but by my attitude. I couldn't humble myself enough to have faith in my talent enough that they would eventually recognize and reward me for the skills that I had. I didn't even think past that day. My ego and emotions were totally out of control. So I quit the team. What happened to those great expectations when I quit the team? Up in smoke. Not only was I not there for the scouts to see, they got the word from the coach, he's a bad actor, don't mess with him. But I had to find some immediate gratification somewhere. So my ego needing something, and the football coach coming up to me every day, putting his arm around me as I walked sadly to the baseball field knowing I wasn't going to play, was saying, come with me, I got to start the position for you. Why was he saying that? Because all of his defensive backs and running backs didn't look like me, and he wanted some speed. So he gave me what I was after, immediate gratification, a starting job on the football team. But look at me, I can't play no pro football. And I still wasn't going to class. So where's the future in that? But something happened along my journey. I looked around and everybody that was blocking from me, everybody that was protecting me on that field didn't look like me. So I started to open up and feel these people as what? As people. Became close friends with a few of them. One in particular, we became real tight. We used to ride around and go places together all the time. Because we had some things in common. Mainly football and smoking weed. So we was ranch-style house in Chatsworth. And he jumps out the car, so I jump out the car. And he turns like, oh, you're my boy. But my daddy ain't gonna let you in the house. There you have it. But I had evolved to a point where I wasn't mad at him, but I had an understanding of what time it was in his house. So guess what I did? I went and got back in the car. But college was a great experience for me because I inspire kids to go, because when you go, you're going to meet people from all over the world. You're going to be interacting with all different cultures and all different folks that believe all different things and all different religions. It opens you up to the fact that it's about consciousness, not about color. Now, I don't want y'all to get it twisted. I'm about as pro-black as a black man can get. But I don't judge people based on appearances. I judge people based on what I get from them. You see, I still got a little militant streak. You know, if it was up to me, Parkside scholarships would go only to black males. Hey, get mad at me if you want to. I think I have a good reason for feeling that way. Because they are the most endangered species on the ground in the United States. And if anybody here can deny that they need the most help, I want to hear it. But we give scholarships to everybody, all races, all genders. So you can't get mad at me about that. But on my journey, now that I didn't, as you know, I'm a dropout, I didn't graduate, but I learned a whole lot when I was there. Because it opened me up, and it caused a lot of great expectations that I had in my life going forward to come true. When I had my first job interview, the first question this man who didn't look like me asked me was, can I call you Jerry? Now, my name is Jerrold Smith, by the way, you know that. My Swahili name is Jabari, just like my Shih Tzu. So when coming up in the neighborhood, you know, first thing you don't let the white man change your name. So my first thought was to say what? No. But it took maybe just a few seconds for me to recall that my father, from the day I was born, always called me Jerry. Everybody on the block I grew up on called me Jerry. So I told him yes. Now I know right now that if I had said no, I'd never got that job. I trust me. So I move forward, and I have great expectations now. I'm going to make a little money. So I get into radio, and there's this woman who doesn't look like me, who everybody had told me was the Wicked Witch of the West. You do not want to mess with her. I made a decision to accept her job offer, because Kiss FM was big time back then. So if you work there, you can work anywhere. That was my rationale. She became such a supporter of mine that when she left that company to take a bigger job at another company, she went against her contract and she promised them she wouldn't raise the sales staff, brought me over, gave me a $30,000 a year raise to come over just to work for Gator. Now I love y'all, but I don't know many of y'all that did that for a brother. While I was in my advertising career, I met a guy named Tom Nix, who doesn't look like me. Y'all familiar with Nix Check Action, right? Yeah. Tom Nix and I have stood back to back, armed to the hip, and face down the Chicago Mafia. Tom Nix and I got in a van and went from store to store to store in the 92 riots, taking thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars out of them stores back to his office. Now, in 1969, I would have never done that for somebody white. Never in a million years. But we like this to this day. Multi-millionaire. If I needed a couple of $1 million, I know I can call Reverend Helen, but the rest of y'all wouldn't be able to help. But if I call Tom Nick, guess what? He might come to the rescue. So what I'm trying to tell y'all in a unique way, we New Thought folk, we metaphysical folk, we get our understanding from something called a religious science textbook. Some of us were like me and sat in the pews of Founders Church for many years. And when I was sitting in those pews at Founders Church, I was listening to somebody who had a big nose like a brother, but he wasn't a brother. Dr. W.H.T. Hornaday. That's the message that I heard that continued to wake me up. So even though from that line came Daniel Dean Morton, even though there's an Arthur Chang, even though there's a Reverend Mine, even though there's a Michael Beckwith, Ernest Holmes taught them what they know. Ernest Holmes was not a brother. So if we are of a New Thought ilk and we are progressive in our thinking, how possibly can we be racist in our attitude? Albeit, truth is timeless, but the original sources that wrote whatever Ernest Holmes read, the ancients who had that wisdom of God, that wisdom of love, they, according to the historians, according to the anthropologists, they look just like you. So you see how everything transitions? The word's been handed down and handed up and handed back down for eons of time. Didn't matter whether it was spoken by a black man or a white man. Why? Because truth is truth. That's right. The truth is God is love. Therefore, we should all be loving. But that's hard to do when we arm ourselves with a predisposition. Ernest Holmes tells us, he reminds us, we must erase, to erase a thought, we have to pour in an opposing thought. So if you want to get rid of a bad habit, you got to replace it with a good habit. If you have some negative stuff going on in your mind, you got to replace it with some positive. He told us that we have the option and the power to replace negative with positive or vice versa. He said there's no condemnation unless we believe in condemnation. And there's no admiration unless you believe in it. He said God's willingness to help us is expressed in the existence of an immutable law which gives us exactly the objective experience for which we build the mental equivalent or likeness to. That's right. Yes. I failed in my expectation to become a professional baseball player. But I succeeded in my expectation that there was a power out there that could stop me. I failed in my dream, but I succeeded in a subconscious dream that I didn't even know I had. Now, I'm not saying that the evils like racism don't exist. Walter Starkey, it's all God. He says it's insulting to our intellect to see man's inhumanity to man or the unequal circumstances many are born into and say that there is no evil. At the level of appearances, evil exists and needs to be dealt with or defeated. However, when the nature of error is realized as nothingness, claiming to be power, as ignorance imposing itself on progress, we can simultaneously realize there is a level at which God or Spirit is the first and only cause. Earlier I mentioned something about how when we turn on the news, we hear a lot about building walls. And that's a point of contention for a lot of us. In this book, there's a gentleman talked about called Nehemiah. And his whole chapter is centered around a wall that was built to protect Jerusalem. Now, there are preachers who believe this story is evidence that building a wall to protect our borders is a godly thing. Those same preachers, however, will tell you that Noah cursing Ham is what allowed them to control you in an institution called slavery. You see, Noah's message to his sons was only a suggestion that they allow spiritual thinking, Shem, and intellectual thinking, Japheth, to control our physical desire, Ham. Now this wall that Nehemiah built, chapter 6, 1 through 6. Then, when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem, the Arabian, and the rest of the enemies heard the news that I had built the wall, and there was no breach left in it, though at the time we had got not set up in the doors upon the gates. Sanballat, Geshem, sent me saying, come, let us go together and encamp as a troop in the plain of Ono. But they sought to do me harm. And I sent a message to them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down, lest the work cease. While I leave it, and come down to you. But they sent me 4 times in this manner, and I answered them after the same manner. Then Sanballat sent his servant to me like a manner the 5th time, with a letter in his hand, wherein was written, it is reported among the nations that Geshem says it, that you and the Jews think to rebel. That is why you are building the wall, that you may be their king according to their words. The wall wasn't built to keep people out. The wall was built to return Jerusalem to a place of an abiding consciousness in spirit and peace. The wall was built to keep spiritual ideas protected from negative influences. Sanballat represents error thinking. Tobiah are sensuous thoughts, and Geshem are unproductive ideas. The wall represents the inner strength and realization of an omnipresent God. Nehemiah had been led away from the spiritual peace that he was born into to the confusion of a sense consciousness the scriptures call Babylon. So he built the wall in order to balance the negative and the positive forces in the soul consciousness to restore and renew the spiritual body. The wall was built to restore spiritual worship by keeping the opposition, which are your negative thinking self, out. The greatest opposition to spiritual progress today is religious dogma. A little understanding of Scripture builds walls around people. This is my church. This is my religion. We believe this. How dare you sit on the front row and not have one of them scarves over your knees? A true Christian is a child of God. A true Christian doesn't battle, nor do they argue. They demonstrate the truth within them that makes all of us better. They prove the law within themselves. They prove that love will overcome any opposition to spiritual freedom. They prove that the wall keeps out the negative to allow us to focus our attention on the positive. When you see someone acting contrary to their spiritual truth, be it on the street, be it in your workplace, be it right here in LA Third Church, don't call Reverend Lisa. And please don't call me. Speak a word of love to them. You ain't the only one that never made a mistake, even though you think so in that very moment. Instead of pulling your switch out and spanking them, how dare you say that? How dare you do this in church? Instead of pulling out your switch, pull out your arms of love and give them a hug. Let them know that you know what the truth is about them, even though they may be demonstrating something else. This is what Christians do. This is what people do who realize that they ain't all that and a bag of chips every moment, every hour of the day. That we all fall short every once in a while. We all need somebody to inspire us. We all need somebody to lift us up. We all need somebody to remind us that we are a child of God. We all need somebody to edify the fact that love is theirs, no matter what the question. So we read it on the wall when we walk through the door. We read it in the program every time we come. But if somebody takes my seat, if somebody walks in off the street and looks a little, maybe smells a little, all of a sudden that love is the answer fades a little bit. I had an idea. My first idea was to pull the switch out. My second idea was to give you a hug. Because I realized that whatever you do, I do. Because if I didn't do it, if I didn't have it within me, I couldn't see it. God bless you.